Alrighty, well, welcome to this week's Ask Us Anything. We've got a fair bit of news this week to go through, so we might as well sort of do a bit of that now. I guess the elephant in the room was the Targa West Rally win. So John Edwards' Performance Model 3 basically slaughtered the 130 category, I think beating the second place holder by about 8 minutes, which was a profound victory. And even I think beating the 165 kilometre speed limited category. I think they beat the winner of that by, was it 2 or 4 minutes? Nigel?
4 minutes, I read.
4 minutes.
That's a ridiculous amount, isn't it? Those poor petrol heads.
Yes, it's sort of just not fair, is it? That
they won't allow him back again. You realise that?
Indeed. So that I believe next year they're going to go open, which is roll cage and open category. I think there was talk of them going to the to the 165, but they're just going straight to the open category next year, which should be pretty exciting. So yeah, hopefully there'll be a few more EVs participating in the next season. We're sort of going backwards in time. So the next sort of bit of news was that the Starlink North American beta has come out, and basically in the States they're charging $99 a month US for access, and then with that you've got to excuse me, you've got to buy approximately $500 of equipment, which basically is that dinner plate that you stick up in the air to get well, what will eventually be gigabit internet. I think they said the speeds are going to be about between 50 and 150 megabits per second initially, because obviously SpaceX is nowhere near their 12,000 projected satellites. I think they're closer to about 1,000 at the moment. So that's
and intermittent coverage as well until they've got more satellites up there.
Yes. Although interestingly, I thought there was a school that they're doing, or a town, a school in some town that's actually a fairly southern latitude in North America. So I think their coverage is improving weekly.
I was amazed at the price though, $100 US, 140 Australian. That's incredible. I thought it was going to be $1,000 a month easy at the start.
Yeah, I dare say if you already have broadband like everyone in Perth does, it's kind of not a great deal. But then if you're remote,
not intended,
it's a screaming bargain.
Another advantage I did think though was that if you bought one, you could take it on a road trip.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's where it comes into its own.
And I believe there's some VR software that you put on your smartphone to help align it, which is pretty cool. So that's Starlink. And then we've got another big bit of news, which should give most of us a bit of positivity, is the FSD beta rollout, which Tesla have changed tack. In the old days, you weren't even permitted to admit that you had an early access program set up. But now Tesla have probably quite wisely gotten a few prominent Twitterers and YouTube participants to basically actively highlight just what the FSD is doing. And I guess all you guys have seen some of the videos. They're pretty incredible. It's great to see on the Binnacle, on the S and X's, or on the 3s, I guess it's on the main screen. All the visualization of all the lane markings, all the cars, people, pedestrians, bikes, motorbikes, trucks, everything. And just the way it actually applies some of the logic of it will actually permit itself to go on the wrong side of the road briefly if it has to go around an object that's in the way. So that's something that's really positive. And
that visualization, I think Elon has said, isn't going to be in the final version. It's just for the purposes of ironing out problems and so on in the meantime. But it still looks pretty specky to me.
I think someone did say, "Oh, can we keep it?" And I think he said, "We're going to have it dulled down, but that'll be an option."
Mm.
And that's actually a very good thing, because there's lots of nerds like us that love to see all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, give us the advanced menu where we can see all our cell voltages, all our power levels, and all that sort of nerd out stuff would be really cool. But I guess you can sort of see their logic of, you don't want to sort of confuse people with too much stuff. But you know, maybe it'll just be similar to the current autopilot or Navigate and Autopilot. It might just show more lanes and a few more things. But it's yeah, it's pretty cool. It's very cool. The other thing we've got is in the UK, Tesla have brought out the Powerwall energy plan using AutoBidder. So they've teamed up with a power company. I think they're called Octopus Energy.
Octopus Energy, yep.
And they are a fully renewable energy provider. And it's a pretty good deal. If you're a Tesla owner, you basically get a flat fee of 8 pence per kilowatt hour, which I think is about a third the going rate.
Well, actually, Rob Mauer did a very good podcast on this, which I listened to today. It might be in the last couple of days. So if you have just a Powerwall, it's 11 pence a kilowatt hour.
That's
Sorry,
right.
have I preempted you here? Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. You can go ahead. Go for it.
No, and if you've got a Tesla car, it's 8 pence a kilowatt hour, but you also only get 8 pence per kilowatt hour if you export. Because both my mother and my sister back in the UK are both with Octopus Energy, but it's not actually that great a deal for my mum, for example, because it removes her very lucrative feed-in tariff that she gets from installing in 2009, which she would lose. For my sister with a no Powerwall but a Tesla, that also doesn't work for her just yet. So
yes,
good, but comes with conditions.
And there was an irony that for non-Tesla owners, you get the 11 pence, but if you generate electricity, you'll be paid 11. And if you consume it, you'll be charged 11, and vice versa for the Tesla owners. They will be charged 11 or be paid. They'll be charged 8 if they're importing, and they'll be paid 8 if they're exporting. But I think Rob Mauer actually explained that the reason behind that was they couldn't have asymmetrical pricing. It had to be symmetrical in and out, probably by regulation. But still, he also did explain that the payback period is fairly long. But obviously, if you already have a Powerwall, then it's potentially a good deal, particularly if you are a high energy user, because you get the discounted rate.
A friend of mine that actually did, in London, that did install Powerwall, because because I talked about it with him for so long. He doesn't want to do it because he doesn't want to give up the control of his Powerwall. So that's another factor.
Yeah, I guess it depends on whether you see your Powerwall as a money earning device or a money saving device, as opposed to perhaps an energy hoarding device, not hoarding, but accumulating device. And I presume the AutoBidder, it would have various rules where it wouldn't go below, 30 or 40%, so that if you had to use it as a UPS, it would still operate if there was a power outage or something like that. But and I guess the other interesting thing for Tesla is it might end up, it's presumably going to be ending up as a income stream for them, because no doubt they'll probably take a small percentage of the profit that the AutoBidder is earning, which could be pretty interesting. The other thing is we've got the first 7,000 Model 3s exported to Europe from Giga Shanghai, which I guess the next thing we want to hear is several thousand Model 3s being exported to Australia from Giga Shanghai, which would be very interesting for us, given that Tesla has just reduced the price of Model 3s across the board.
Oh, really? I've just bought mine, not impressed.
Yes. Oh, that's always a that's always a risk.
How much?
It-
How much are they pricing them at?
The SR Plus is
Best not to ask.
the SR Plus is $73,000 roughly.
With on-road costs?
Yes, I do believe so. We can bring that up in 2 seconds.
And what's the SR mean?
Yeah, there's only an SR Plus. If you go to Model 3,
That had 92 the last time I checked.
yep, we'll have a look. It'll come up in 2 seconds and a little bit. WA. Okay, so the SR Plus delivered is 73,000 or 74,000 drive away.
What's
it-
NAMKN?
That's a problem with their server. It's
Right.
the NAN. I think NAN means it's not a variable. It's a null variable or something. So they haven't got that. That's just glitched out. So that's 73.8. The long range is 91,658. This is with no full self-driving, and the performance is now 104,000.
Have you seen that acceleration, 0 to 100 in 0 seconds?
Yes, I don't quite know what's going on.
It obviously now travels at the speed of light, and therefore it takes no time.
Let's see if Chrome can do. Oops.
Okay, I don't know what I have. I better have a look at mine.
I think yours might be an SR Plus, Carmen. I'm not entirely certain.
Where does it say? Oh, yeah. Mine just says Model 3.
Yes, you'd have to look on your My Tesla account, possibly, where it would have. Oh, here we go. That's better now. So the SR Plus is 73 out of 11, and it goes.
So
forward
that's
at
the
90.
one I've got. I've got exactly that one on the screen now.
Yes, they have changed it. I think there are different specs now. They've got different wheels. They've done a few minor tweaks, so you couldn't get this yet. So I dare say that even though you got yours a couple of weeks ago, you couldn't get this one because it's slightly different anyway. It's almost like a new year model, sort of. Not that Tesla really do year models, but actually they're kind of making an exception where they've had a refresh over the S3 and X range. They've got minor tweaks and a price improvement, which is never great to hear when you've just bought something, but I guess it could always go the other way.
Okay.
Earlier
So
this
that's
year.
mine.
Yes. Yep. So, and then the long range.
And I paid more than that, so I want a refund.
Email Harry and give it a go.
Yeah.
You never quite know. Yeah, so that's something that's interesting. Is the like I said, the 7,000 Model 3s that are going to Europe from Shanghai, which, if you're a Tesla bull, that indicates that Europe's demand is increasing. If you're a bear, it says that there isn't enough demand in China, but I don't think anyone really believes that. China's gone from 2 shifts at Shanghai to 3, so that certainly explains the increase in production that they can do.
So are they made in China?
Not the Australian ones yet, but the ones that are going to Europe, well, from Shanghai, yes, they are the made in China. And I think they may include, for the SR Pluses, they may include the iron phosphate battery.
I don't really want anything made in China.
Well, there's lots of parts of the car that actually are. Believe it or not, my Model X's wheels, the rims are made in China. There's lots of parts made in China, I'm afraid, for better or worse, because they are really the manufacturer of the world. And that includes a lot of semiconductors and similar things.
Well, what happened to Germany?
I guess you'd have to read the history books on that.
Well,
Germany's
Germany
still-
are getting the Berlin Gigafactory. So.
Well, they are too, indeed. Yes. So that is an example of yes, Germany coming back. It's just that China, it used to be Japan. Then it was Korea. Then it's China. Then it's India and wherever else. So
Yeah,
it's just one of those.
A lot of people are saying that what's coming out of China is better quality than coming out of Fremont.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's entirely plausible and certainly probably true. Although that's a bit of a tautology, but anyway. There's a little quickie I got, which I had to laugh at. Did you hear that the Polestar 2 totally smashed the Model 3, except it only did so in reverse, because it's the only way it can out-accelerate a Tesla, because Teslas apparently have a revert, their highest speed in reverse is, I think it was either 25 kilometers an hour or 25 miles an hour. So some group in Europe tested the two side by side, and the only way they could get the Polestar to win was to have a race going backwards, which is almost like a great metaphor perhaps for the Polestar, but maybe I'm being a bit too critical. Another interesting thing that Tesla's done is they're now fitting laminated side glass to the Model Y windows in a bid to reduce road noise, because as we know, Tesla's
Yes.
road noise.
It's much louder than my Mercedes.
Yes, yeah. Obviously the engine, the drivetrain is much quieter, but because of weight reduction and the thin skins and not much sound deadening in the cars, which obviously adds weight, they are a bit noisier on the road. But at least Tesla's looking at alleviating that. And like I said, in Europe, they've actually spotted some Model Ys. That doesn't quite make sense because I know Model Ys, actually there are a couple of grey imported ones that have got laminated glass. I don't think it's double insulated. I don't think there's an air gap. I think it's just a plastic film in between two sheets of glass. At least that's what the photo looked like. Next thing we've got is that the Model Y may get biodefense weapon mode, like the Model X, and I think some of the S's now have. And this was thanks via Green, or Very Green, or Green the Only, who tweeted out that he's had a look at the latest version of firmware running on the Model Ys, and there's some bits there that indicate that there will be a HEPA filter in the Model Y. And I guess potentially maybe the Model 3 down the road, which would be a good thing. And then I guess the last thing we've got is the earnings report, which was almost a whole week ago. On Thursday, our time, it landed. And it's basically indicating that Tesla was going great guns. Their revenues are up. A big one was their profit margin on vehicles went from something like 18% to 23%, which is sort of unheard of. And I think 1 or 2 days ago, they reported that they're upping their capital expenditure. So over the next, I think it's 3 years, they're going to be spending $12 billion, which is obviously on the Gigafactory, Berlin, Shanghai, and Texas. And their battery plant, of course.
And obviously $1 billion for superchargers in Western Australia.
No, I missed that entry. No,
Yeah,
I looked through the fine print and it just didn't quite appear. I don't know why.
30 million will do. Doesn't have to be $1 billion.
Yes, indeed. Indeed. And unfortunately, there are people in this room that are acutely aware of issues with charging.
Yes.
Poor Carmen.
I have sent my little blog to the CEO of RAC, and I
Excellent.
expect a reply.
Excellent.
Good on you.
I must admit, to give the RAC some credit, they had done the first electric highway, which at the moment the not met. Well, none of the charging stations are compatible with Model 3 as we speak, but we're working on that for a fix. But they've actually, in a sense, I guess we all presumed that once they had built the highway they had kind of forgotten about it and neglected it and left it alone and weren't going to come back to it. But it's good to see that the ChargeFox ultra fast charger at Treendale near Australand, or in Australand, is actually well, part sponsored or part paid for, or some sort of arrangement with the RAC, because the RACWA, RACV, RACQ and NRMA are partners in ChargeFox. So it seems the RAC have stepped up and actually at least partially funded the Treendale site. And they are actually quite motivated to getting more sites up.
It's Mickey Mouse. I'm sorry. It is not Apple. It is not working how it should. And I should have been warned
Yes.
that because I read the advertising, I joined RAC, and they had advertised electric highway from Perth to Augusta, and it's not true.
Not for a Tesla, no.
No.
I think once on their website, or they had an email, they sent everyone out an email when they changed providers to do the billing providers.
Oh, they're good at billing.
Yes, yeah, that's right. So they sent an email out, and they did, I think, they had like an asterisk that said at the moment, and I think it's on the actual, I think it's either on PlugShare. I actually will have a quick look. I think they do say that there's a little asterisk that says currently not
Yes.
compatible with Model 3s. But you're right, Carmen, the problem is if you just buy a Tesla, well, put it this way, if you bought a Tesla in the United States, in Europe, or in the eastern seaboard of Australia, everything that Tesla has said would ring true. You basically just navigate to anywhere you want to go to, and it will tell you which supercharger to stop at. The big problem in WA is because there's only the one supercharger, and this is the deadly thing that the car unfortunately does do, is if you navigate to Albany from Perth, rather than it telling you to go down Albany Highway, which is the shortest route, it will always make you go to Eton. In fact,
yep.
I think I've done stuff where I've actually navigated north of Perth, and it's actually told me at different times to go to Eton first, which
That's
is
amazing.
It does.
Which
It's
is bonkers.
a default. Yeah.
yes. So
It does. But that's no excuse for the delivery people who have delivered the vehicle without any warnings whatsoever, without any handout, without any summary. It's all plug in here, look in there. And I thought I was prepared. And I downloaded the PlugShare app, although that's not straightforward either. And
No.
you need to get used to it. And I didn't even know which plugs worked and where. And the Fox charge I haven't even got right yet. So they shouldn't charge until it's working correctly, and you can do Albany in the time that it takes a normal car, which is about 6 hours, or a 12.5-hour return trip. There should be a warning, because it took me 10 hours each way, and it was a little bit stressful going through the forest, and I didn't see a soul for 2.5 hours, and my car got full of dust.
yes.
Which wasn't impressive either.
Now, speaking of the plugs, so what you do is, so for instance, at the moment you have the 10 amp, 15 amp, and in fact, that's all you have at the moment. So what you do is you put on, there's a thing that's called filters, and you use supercharger, Tesla, the wall socket, and there is actually, and CCS, except you've got to be careful with that. There's a big caveat there. And for weird reasons, you have a thing called Commando, which is actually, Caravan main socket, sorry.
I've got that. That's got the thicker earth plug, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So
you can use Type 2 as well, Harold.
No, Carmen can't yet because she hasn't got a Type 2 to Type 2 cable. So it has
Oh,
to
but-
be, and there are no tethered Type 2 outlets that
The
are
RAC.
Tesla. Oh, sorry. Yes. Okay.
The
Sorry, yes.
RAC ones, I've used several of them, and
Sorry,
they
yes.
just plug in.
Yes, fair enough. Yes, but that'll also come up under the CCS plug as well, because those Trio units have the CCS, CHAdeMO, and AC Type 2. So when you look at that, the big caveat there, once this basically refreshes, because it takes a little bit of time, is actually we'll just get to the fast DC chargers. The ones that you can use at the moment, notwithstanding Arthur River, which I know, Carmen, you couldn't get that going. We're going to address that, but you can charge at Katanning. That is what's known as a tritium 50 kilowatt fast DC charger.
That didn't come up in my app.
No, that looks like that.
Okay.
And that is absolutely always compatible with all Teslas. So that's at Katanning. There's also one at Lake Grace. That's one that was actually crowdfunded through EVA. You've also got the one in Collie, which is, the thing is, that's not far out of Bunbury or Eton, so really you probably would have been supercharging there anyway. But so basically you've got guaranteed to work at the moment is Collie, Katanning, Lake Grace, Arthur River, if you press the right buttons in the right sequence, and we'll get to that in a minute. But none of these electric highway units are compatible at the moment. And oh, it looks like Treendale is actually, no, sorry, it might not be running totally yet. But I mean, you've got the supercharger at Eton anyway, so in one sense, it's kind of irrelevant.
Treendale's cheaper.
Yeah, but it is actually cheaper. And it looks like Dave Smith, I don't know if he is a card only man, so he might have actually used the app. So it might have appeared on ChargeFox's app, which you do need to activate it. I'll just check that now. And no, it's still showing up as a spanner at the moment. So, but that'll be coming online.
Cogen Up worked quite well, but it was very slow. It wanted 3 hours.
Yes, because Cogen Up that's just a Tesla destination charger at the home timber and hardware.
Yes.
So yes, that works quite well, but it is slow. And then what doesn't work frustratingly very well is the Williams Woolshed. And unfortunately, it's not for lack of us telling them what's going on, because there was a photo taken on the 6th of June with the cable unplugged.
Yes.
It's a little bit of a design flaw of the HPWCs, which stands for High Power Wall Connector, which is actually the thing you currently get for free. Oh, that's something else, Carmen. You would have gotten that in the boot of your car that you could install at home. The cheaper price for the Model 3 doesn't include the HPWCs anymore, I believe.
Okay.
So
No.
there's a bit of a swing and a roundabout
But
there.
that's only $700.
Yes, it is, absolutely. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, on the 6th of June, it was known that this thing had an issue. And in fact...
But the thing about Williams is, because I spent quite some time speaking to the lady there, and their 3-phase didn't work. I asked if I could borrow a cord to perhaps charge with 3-phase, and their 3-phase wasn't working, which leads me to believe that the electrician installation is not correct.
The thing is, they don't have an adapter that you could have used
Okay.
for that, unfortunately. But for instance, I actually put in a post a couple of weeks ago, actually saying, yeah, could not get to work again. Cable still partially pulled out, and that was in the 19th of September. So I don't want to sort of press this point, but sadly, this place has been known to not be working sporadically over several months, and unfortunately, as recently as a few days ago. It's still not working.
Well, in that case, it'd be like any other supplier commercially. If they have to have some guidelines, and if they don't meet the guidelines, it's 3 strikes and you're out, and they give it to somebody else who is willing to put the time and effort into it.
The problem is all of these destination charges are they are basically free issued by Tesla to a recipient, who then proceeds to pay for the installation and also pay for electricity. So unfortunately, even though it's a Tesla destination charger, it's not actually administered by Tesla. So in one sense, they unfortunately sort of wash their hands of it once they've handed it over, pretty much. So unfortunately, we're in this grey area of whose fault is it, or, you know, and I mean, Williams probably get a bit of passing trade, so they really should be fixing this thing.
They've got the best shopping area for people that want to have a stopover.
Yes, and in fact,
they were pleasant enough. They were.
Yep.
Her husband wasn't there, but the lady I spoke to appeared to be trying, and they do get the business out of that because they have a cafe and they have goods. In fact, I bought something while I was there, so it's in their interest. But if there's no incentive for them, then they shouldn't be given one and give it to somebody else. Whereas the one in the trade center at Kojonup, Macca couldn't bend over backwards. He tried, he did his best, and I had no trouble charging, but I didn't want to be there for 3 hours, or I would arrive at night and I wouldn't have known how to navigate around to Good Beach.
Yes, yes. One good bit of news with Williams, notwithstanding their crappy destination charger, is that it's been confirmed that they are going to be the recipient of one of Tesla's supercharger sites at the actual woolshed. So there'll be at least several supercharger stalls in a permanent installation. And then logic says that if they've got a supercharger at Williams, it'll be a little bit of a stretch to get to Albany, although you basically can. So there is a bit of logic that says that perhaps there might be a supercharger also at Kojonup, which would be fantastic.
I think they've applied for it. He told me that he was up on the strength of my call. He hadn't even seen a Tesla before, and he said he was going to apply for a fast charger.
Yeah, cool. That's at Kojonup at the hardware.
Yes.
Excellent.
I wonder if Williams aren't going to bother fixing that destination charger because they know that Tesla are going to put a supercharger in there at some point soon.
Yeah, I'm just going to have to bite my tongue because this is going out to YouTube. I'm just going to bite my tongue as far as that goes.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be Q1. The thing is, look, the thing with Arthur River, we might as well chew that chestnut. Oh, right, I didn't actually realize that these instructions are actually there. And they are a little bit confusing.
Well, it said go around the back of the EV or whatever it is, and yes. Knee high, there is a plug. Put the key in the plug. There is nothing knee high that I could see. It was a lot higher, but even when there was one,
yep.
And he said around the back, not the side. So I went around the back, and then right above it, it said danger sign. Be careful with this, be careful with that. So who's going to do it? So
yes.
I went and got the assistant, and she had no idea, the person at the shop. All she could do was give me the keys.
Yes, and in fact, if you look at the front there, if we go a couple of photos along, that is actually the back of that charger. So when you see the front of the charger,
Harold, you're not screen sharing, Harold.
Oh, sorry, apologies. Thanks, Ken. Now, if you look at the charger here, that's the front.
Yes.
Now, right behind, immediately behind this front part on the right-hand side, is the key. It's not the back of the entire generator. It's just
that's
behind.
not the back, that's the side.
Yes, I know, but well, it's sort of behind. It's sort of, yeah.
I went to the back of it.
No, yeah, and so have others.
So have I. Yep.
Yes,
And I
so
knew what I was looking for, and I
so-
still walked around it 7 times until I found it.
so it's
yeah,
actually
give
immediately
John
it's
some gentle
it-
feedback.
it's 6 inches behind it. You know, it's basically behind you, just behind that unit, the back part of the back side of the unit. And if you had turned that on, the generator would have turned itself on. There's a timer that I think this is all blank, and there's a timer that counts down approximately 5 minutes, and you just wait for that to basically finish counting down, and then it would have worked okay. And unfortunately, John Edwards, who actually owns and pays for this, has paid for this unit. When you rang him, Carmen, he was really busy at the Targa Rally, because it was actually his rally car that won that stage or that event.
Yes, but I was a customer, and I don't really care what he was doing. I wanted help and service, and I was stuck. And I had rung the day before and virtually almost made an appointment to make sure that he was free and working.
Yes.
And I left at 8:30 in the morning, and I didn't get here until 6:30. So I was on the road for 10 hours relying on that charger, and I had rang and made an appointment. And when I rang him, because I saw his number up there, he was very rude.
Yeah, I think the problem is, like, it was super busy. And look, to give John his dues, this is completely privately funded. He makes no money out of it because it costs more. Like, in him selling the electricity, it would take like 100 years to get his money back. So this is really, he's only done this because there is literally a specific absence of any other charging. You can really see that well demonstrated.
Then it's a Tesla problem. Then if they want to
Absolutely,
sell the
yes.
car, they have to come. He should make a lot of noise to Tesla, and I'm happy to support that and make sure that the right people are supporting the right people. Otherwise, I'm a customer. I have a business and I run my business, and I'm a customer. I never queried the price, and I never argued with anything else. I just wanted service.
Yep. Well then, PlugShare, that's not all the superchargers, because as you zoom in, it actually fills in more. But this is basically the state of this is only superchargers, and this is Europe, and that's just showing a few of the pins. If you pan across to the US, and again, this is only just a smattering because their server is very slow. So as you zoom in, particularly in California, it's just thick with superchargers. And mind you, when I went to Europe, I do remember I actually posted up a couple of supercharger sites that weren't even on PlugShare, because no one bothers to use PlugShare in Europe or the States, because you just use your car and it knows where they all are. Now, if you then compare that with the Eastern Seaboard, they don't, or New Zealand for that matter, they don't do too badly. There's the Eastern Seaboard. So if you were instead driving from, say, Sydney to Brisbane or Sydney to Macquarie or Coffs Harbour, you'd be totally fine. And if you're even in New Zealand, you're also totally fine. But the last supercharger finishes at a place called Clare, and the next one is in Eton, and that's all of Australia. So you're right, Carmen. It is on Tesla. It behoves Tesla to provide some adequate charging infrastructure, because Elon Musk himself said that you have to provide not just for 90% of people's travel needs, you have to basically cover 100% of all their needs. Otherwise, it devalues their product, namely the car. So, and then if you just add the CCS, again, Australia is even, the Eastern Seaboard is even more catered for, all the way up to Port Douglas. And
So
again,
in other words, they're saying that there's not enough volume of traffic or cars in WA, and they can't be bothered setting it up.
well, I think what it was a bit of a chicken and an egg. The problem was, I think, up until probably about 9 months ago, Tesla was still a bit resource constrained as far as funding and basically money. But now they are literally flush with money. They have I think, $14 billion of equity, of cash. And they are now, and obviously, unfortunately, COVID got in the way earlier this year. But Tesla are changing their tune. They've gone from having a one-man band, as no sales presence, with no salesman. One, well, originally they had a fly-in, fly-out casual service person that would come in from the States, from over east. They had one permanent guy. Now they've got 6 or 7, roughly, I think 6 technicians at the so-called Nedlands. Technically, I guess it's Nedlands, a suburb of Nedlands, but it's right
Yeah,
next
they're
to
in
the
Government Road. I
Government Road.
live very close, so
Yes.
I've dropped in a few times, and
Yep.
that's where I bought the mats. Somebody was asking about mats. They've got it all there, and
Yes.
those guys are techies, and they're quite efficient in their own way.
Yes.
But the sales process, I'd love to talk to Elon Musk sometime and tell him about it. Absolutely Mickey Mouse. I had 5 different guys phone me to get the order and get it organized, because they're always either away on holidays or left. So it took 5 guys to get me the car.
Carmen, the other angle at this that I've been hammering as well, like, you're absolutely right. I mean, and this is going to just keep happening more and more and more as people who aren't, EV sort of diehards like we've all sort of become over the last few years to get around. You're right. If you're just buying it and going, right, I need to travel to here, and then having these problems, no one can blame you for it. And we have been hammering Tesla for years. They've said another supercharger for Perth in 2018 and 2019 and 2020. But the other angle of it as well is that the Western Australian government are currently spending $11.8 billion of our money on infrastructure upgrades. And the UWA produced a report 2 years ago that the Western Australian government asked them to produce to cost how much it would be to cover every major route in Western Australia in ultra fast chargers. And the conclusion of the UWA was $35 billion. Now, we've seen projects that have been spent on upgrading car parks that have been $35 million in Perth. So I'm constantly hammering Rita Saffioti, the Transport Minister, on Twitter, and Mark McGowan, and Ben Wyatt, and Dave Kelly, and anyone that I can try and find to target this at, and go, come on, guys and girls,
Well, I'll write to them. I mean, I'm in court at the moment because of the development issues. They want to put 4 stories next to my brand new house, and so I'm arguing against the development. But they're spending oodles of money on development, so there's no reason why. And well, Saffioti,
$35 million to cover every major road and highway in Western Australia in ultra fast, up to 350 kilowatt chargers is peanuts.
Yes.
It's nothing. I just don't understand. I don't understand Rita Saffioti's just complete bafflement, complete ignoring of.
Okay.
Of
all right. Well, I'll write to her. One question: why are there so many chargers? Why can't they customize?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, cars have. If you go and fill petrol, or you have a petrol, a diesel, plug. Why do we have to have so many different ones in electric vehicles?
Good question.
I guess historical. A lot of that is historical. I'll just get back to the that plug share thing, so you can actually see some of these plugs. So this one here is the J1772. That was the original single phase outlet, which was designed in the United States. Tesla 8 years ago, roughly, designed their own format, which they could also use to put DC power through the same pins. So it's not standard to the American standard of EV charging. Then after the J7072, this is just AC charging only. They added 2 DC pins underneath. It looks a little bit like this plug on the lower left, but it's just got 2 DC pins under. That is basically an American-based standard. In Europe, for AC charging, they invented the Type 2 connector, the Menikes connector. Now, what Tesla did, and then subsequently they actually followed up with putting the AC pin, the DC pins underneath, which is this CCS2 plug here. What Tesla did in Europe, and apparently BMW was going to do, was on their setup in the car, they've increased the length of these pins. These are normally AC pins. So this is a 3-phase setup. It has first phase, second phase, third phase, neutral, and earth, or something similar to that. And they actually put one part of the DC along these 2 pins and the other part of the DC along these 2 pins, the positive and the negative, and they jam the DC down the AC pins.
Right.
So the older S's and X's have to have an adapter to use the standard CCS plugs. So you would have noticed that the supercharger, there are 2 nozzles, there are 2 pipes.
Yes.
And they look very similar. In fact, one looks just like a smaller version or a cut down version of the other. So unfortunately, it's like with many things that happen, a bit like the Betamax and VHS and other various things. And there's another one that's called Chatamo, and that was based in Japan, which is a very large.
The Nissan Leaf and the Mitsubishi iMEV were.
Yes. So unfortunately, it's a bit of a historical thing. And once that egg had been scrambled, there's no easy way to unscramble it, except to say that in Australia, the standard, the government hasn't yet adopted a standard. In New Zealand, for instance, the standard is the Menikes Type 2 for AC and the CCS2 for DC. And those 2 plugs, that's what the Model 3 has. So the Model 3 basically looks very similar to this, and it will either plug in the AC Type 2 or the combined combination Type 2. But yes, there are some legacy charges. So for instance, at the DFO at the airport, there is a very old charger that was only installed a couple of years ago. That is the Type, this is called Type 1 or J7072, and that's the American style, which only works on a very few cars. So that's kind of a waste of time. It's a legacy item. It's not even worth getting an adapter for it because you're just not going to use it that much. It's just, I guess the world is like a victim to the fact that there was no killer product out there that sort of won instantly. There were just like a few little, minor products, a Nissan Leaf in America
But they've just manufactured these cars that I've got was only delivered recently, a few weeks ago.
Yep.
And they were manufactured for Australia with the proper side of driving, etc.
Yep.
And if they're making them for Australia and New Zealand, it's not that difficult to do the whole car for Australia and New Zealand, and then upgrade anything that's there already. Just have to upgrade.
Yes, so they have got the Type 2 and CCS, and that is the de facto Australian standard. So every fast DC charger that you come across, any new installations, will have compatible plugs and compatible operation for Teslas, all Teslas. The issue is with the RAC highway, those units are 5 years old, I think, roughly 5 years old. And they are currently incompatible. But like I said, the club is actually working with the RAC to resolve that problem. And we're trying our best to do that, to at least hopefully get them online to work with Teslas as fast DC chargers. But as Nigel pointed out, there is actually a slow AC charger also on that unit. So if you were stuck, you could still charge there, albeit slowly.
Yeah, sure.
But like I said, I fully agree. Oh, and by the way, when you see the map, you've got the Arthur River Roadhouse, but John Edwards has also put in the one at Caltex Jurien Bay. So this is actually his unit that he's personally paid for. So up until the Katanning fast DC charger, this gentleman, John Edwards, he had the two most distant DC chargers from Perth. But again, these are personally funded, because this guy famously said that when he was driving an EV, he doesn't want to feel like a second-class citizen, where, you know, you've got to sit around for hours on end waiting to go on your trip. But, you know, as Richard has said, you know, for a mere $30 million, the state government can choose to have profoundly fast DC charging throughout the state, all the way to Kununurra. And that even includes at roadhouses where there is no grid power. And also, you know, which is obviously beyond the scope of Tesla, because the number of Teslas that would make a trip to Kununurra, you know, you probably need about 10 superchargers along the way, maybe a bit more. And that's just horrendously expensive to do just for one single product. Because another problem is that Tesla, and this is a criticism of Tesla, they don't currently provide other EVs the ability to use their chargers at the moment. Although quite famously a few weeks ago in Europe, particularly in Germany, there was a glitch in their system, and any other EV could plug into a Tesla supercharger and use it, not only use it, but actually use it for free, which was sort of quite interesting. There were all sorts of VWs and other cars charging. So Tesla can do it. So for instance, what would be great for Tesla to do is to get together with the state government and say, we'll take your $30 million and we'll put superchargers everywhere, and we'll open them up as public charging stations for any EV to use. And Tesla can do things like, they've got big battery packs, solar panels. So for the remote areas, they could actually have remote area power that's renewable energy based,
Yes.
and solve that problem. But
That would be incredible.
Yeah, but you're right, Carmen. You know, Tesla rightly promote these cars as zero
Cost.
no, yeah, no, not zero cost.
Like, yeah, I know what you're
Zero
trying to say,
compromise.
like,
There's no
yeah,
compromise in the way you need to drive the car.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, except if you want to drive your car outside of a greater part of Perth, or should I say, if you're going to the southwest, so say Margaret River, you know, you just top up at Eton,
Yes.
and then you can then, when you're staying at a chalet or something, there are quite a few destination charges where you can not trickle charge, but you can fill up at 50 kilometers an hour or 70 kilometers an hour overnight at a destination charger at you know, quite a few different hotels and chalets and wineries and similar things. But if you want to go to Kalgoorlie, it's going to be tough at the moment.
Well, that's okay. All they need to do is have a list, and then if you're silly enough to go when they don't recommend it, then that's your problem. But I had no idea.
Yes. Yeah.
And so there was nothing. There's no handout or suggestion
Yep.
or explanation, so that you don't get into that situation.
Yes.
And
Yep.
luckily, I didn't have a child with me,
Yep.
or an elderly person who needed to service or do something. Not even, I mean, if you're stuck in the forest, and my car got full of dust, so I wouldn't drive it to Kununurra or Karratha or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I thought going down southwest, having been on the Albany Highway and it's sealed all the way, I didn't think it was going to be a problem.
And like I said, unfortunately, yes, the sales and delivery team, they just don't have that time. They're pushed too hard to do the next delivery.
They gave me a delivery in 15 minutes. He brought it to me and ordered an Uber.
Yes.
to pick him up, and it's a totally new concept. I've been driving for many years, and I've had many different cars, but I've never had an electric car. And you rely on a phone and an app. I think it deserves a little bit more than 15 minutes.
Yeah, I think unfortunately Harry's been flat out. I know towards the end of last month he was delivering in excess of 10 cars a day.
Yes, no,
Yeah.
he's very hardworking, and I don't
Yeah.
disagree. But if he's in charge, he has to tell his boss that is not possible. Get me another person,
Yeah.
and that's what we all do.
Yes.
You can't go to a restaurant and pay $100 for a meal and have two waiters, and the excuse being that they can only serve so many at the same time. The problem is that the demand is there, and we don't have a lot of choice. If there was a lot more choice, I would actually demand I get my money back. I actually like the car.
Yes,
but
it's awesome. Look, I tell you what, if your trip had gone 8 kilometers the other way, in
yes,
other words, imagine if rather than arriving at your sister's place with 4 kilometers left,
yes,
you had broken down 4 kilometers short,
yes.
and then you would have had to have rung up Tesla, the helpline.
Yeah,
They would have ordered a flatbed truck to
yes.
take to your sister's place to plug in. And then imagine if after that you had repeated, you had gone back the other way, and rather than making it at Hungry Jack's with some
Yes.
kilometers left, you had broken down short of that and got a second flatbed truck, then I
Yes.
imagine you would literally be ringing up Harry saying, I want my
I'll
money
be
back.
ringing. I would be phoning Elon Musk. I can tell you.
Well, I tell you what, if you get his number, let me know.
Yes. Well, you never know. There may be a way. What about what I heard of a guy that had hotted up some Hyundai small vehicle to take it out and do roadside charging. Is that a
I
possibility?
think you already know him.
You already know him because you've spoken to him on the phone.
Oh, really?
That's
Is
John
that
Edwards.
you?
No, that's not me. That's John Edwards. So I'll just bring that up. This is actually his Hyundai Kona. So what he's actually done is he's hot wired the battery pack to a DC to DC converter, which can then charge, well, any CCS2 type car, so a Model 3 or S or X or any car really. So it basically draws from this car's battery and then
Yes.
pushes it into that one. So this is actually the equivalent of having a jerry can in the back of an RAC
Yes.
van.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant.
It is.
Why can't the RAC have a fleet of those?
Well, I think you mentioned that you're going to write a letter to the RAC. You should also suggest that they use this because it's actually a great system and it works very well. The great thing is that this car can also then go and charge itself up somewhere else. So, you know, it does, particularly around Perth, it could be very useful because it's only a matter of time before people do run out of electricity because they just don't realize that their car's going flat.
Yeah.
Although, having said that, the car is very good at warning you. So it will,
Yes.
especially if you're navigating to somewhere, it'll tell you
Yes.
to slow down to a certain speed.
It did. And that's why I rang you.
Yes.
And if it hadn't come up with that, I wouldn't have actually known.
No.
Because at the time I was on percentage and I didn't even know.
Yep, and sadly, as we now know, you also had the regen on light, on mild,
Yes.
and that also restricts the amount of energy it recovers. So your economy wouldn't have been as good as it would have otherwise been.
Yeah. And how would I know about those things? By buying a car?
Read the book.
Well, actually, in hindsight, what you do is you join a club like ours and you hop on and ask us anything, and we tell you all about it.
You don't go before.
No, but we are actually working on that, and I dare say that Harry is very keen on encouraging new owners to contact the club and to join it, and.
But he didn't explain what you do. I thought you were guys that just take a road trip from time to time.
No, we live and breathe this stuff every day.
Yeah.
So, you know, we just do this stuff all the time. And we enjoy welcoming new members, and everyone's got the same questions. You know, how do you do this? How do you plug in? What do I need? What plugs do I need? What can I get? You know, what don't I have? And the biggest problem isn't the questions that you do know, it's the ones you don't know. It's
Yes.
the stuff you don't know that bites you. And like I said, you've probably got the record for the first road trip to actually, and get to your destination with just a mere 4 kilometers left. I mean, I don't think
felt like
anyone.
I feel like a pioneer.
Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, some of us have arrived somewhere on zero, and I've done that personally, but I've done that with a lot of background, knowledge and whatever. But to do it cold is a very daring thing to do. But like I said, it could have gone horribly wrong the other way, and that would have been really upsetting, because there's nothing worse than seeing a car in the back of a flatbed truck. That's just very ordinary.
It's not good advertising. I would do flyers and put them out.
Well, I recall that Rolls-Royce, they actually wouldn't permit Rolls-Royces to be towed. They would have to have a tarpaulin put over them neatly, and they have to be quite discreet, because one doesn't want to see one's Rolls-Royce.
I would agree entirely if I had one.
But yeah, so anyway, like I said, unfortunately, you had the worst of beginner's luck.
Yes.
But it wasn't your fault. It literally wasn't at all. But we're doing the best as a club to try and reduce that, and try and get a hold of owners before they go on big trips.
Yes.
And even preferably before they even buy the car. So on our website, if people Google anything like Tesla owners, Western Australia, or anything like that, our website comes up quite prominently in Google. And we've had quite a lot of owners or members that bumped into our website or saw us at a car show and, just talked to us, and ended up actually deciding to buy the car. And that's Nigel, hand up, at the Como car show last year.
Well,
So,
I thought that the Tesla and the Owners Club was going to be like Apple.
no, we're not owned or paid by Tesla, unfortunately. We're not like Apple geniuses. But no, we're not. We are a completely volunteer organisation. We are actually ratified by Tesla. So we've had to go through a lot of hoops. We have to have a certain minimum number of members and a certain way of basically operating. We obviously have insurance for all our events, and we have to, we have to be careful how we present the product. That logo that you can see just there, that was produced by Tesla, so that's what we're permitted to use. But for instance, well, on our website we've got an online shop, and we've got some merchandise. In fact, that image there, we've actually got that logo, that set up on t-shirts. But we have to actually get approval from Tesla to do that.
I actually ordered some t-shirts.
Oh, cool. Well, actually, speaking of ordering things, I'm actually wearing a t-shirt that I just got from Tesla's newly started Australia shop, which is obviously that famous image of the what's her name, and then on the back it's got the Cybertruck. And I got the corporate jacket, but actually the ladies' wear is actually better. You've got more choice. You got hoodies and all sorts of stuff.
Yes.
And it's free delivery.
Too. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's free delivery, which is really good.
Yes.
So that's that. So has anyone else got any other comments or questions, tips, tricks, any news?
Well, I just want to say that Carmen sounds exactly the kind of person that we need to fight with us for superchargers from Tesla and an electric vehicle fast charging network in Western Australia. Welcome to the gang, Carmen.
I'll do it.
Yes, welcome, Carmen. As Harold said, I went to a car show and went home on the Sunday evening and ordered my Tesla, and that was just over a year ago. But, I did do a lot of research in between order and delivery to try and work out what I needed and what I could do. But then that's me and my OCD.
But Carmen's right, though.
No one told me.
But Tesla make a big deal about, how you buy a car and it's fine. There's a supercharger network, and there isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, mine got delivered to my house on the back of a low loader, and the low loader driver reversed it off, put it in my driveway, said, "Here are the keys, see ya." And
Yes.
I go, "Okay, I think I know where I put these."
That was
I then
appalling,
had,
yeah.
I had to email Tesla to say, "I've taken delivery. I can't see any defects that are obvious." And then they phoned me and said, "Let us help you get it set up. This is how you
Brilliant.
pair your phone. Now you're all right. Goodbye."
Yeah.
Oh,
It was a 10-minute call.
And try and ring them back, because I'd never answered the call after that. You'd never get to the phone
Actually,
person.
no, I phoned them many times between order and delivery, and they were always very, very good.
and who was that? Tesla where?
I think it was Tesla Melbourne.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So where is head office?
Sydney?
I think Kurt Schlosser, who's the head of the country director, I think he's in Melbourne. But
Is he
I
on
think,
Twitter?
I think Sydney is the headquarters at Herbert Street. I think that's their gazetted headquarters.
Okay. Oh, well,
Uh,
I'll just send it to both. It's only copy, CC.
well, the thing too is, what you can do is we can forward. We've got some contact details that are
Yeah.
private to Tesla, so we can certainly forward anything that
please.
you want.
Yes.
The appropriate.
Any contact details, and then I'll just ask them. And I don't see any reason why Tesla shouldn't sponsor you in some way, and you should also ask Tesla to sponsor you. I mean, I'm a real estate agent, so I do flyers and sponsoring and marketing in that line.
Yep.
But they should. You can ask people to sponsor, so that you have some sort of fund to perhaps help people like me.
Yep.
when they're required. But you can do one or two, but you can't just be on tap all the time and pay for all the costs. You
Yeah,
should
well,
have some funds.
we do it as volunteers, and I mean, we do charge $20 a year,
Yes,
and for that you get free access to all our loan adapters.
I
and
know,
all
but that's okay till now. But imagine if they deliver 1,000 vehicles and you get, yeah.
Trust
Well,
me,
yeah,
we're up to it, because we just expand our infrastructure, and we
Okay.
really are up to it. There'll be nothing that would bring more satisfaction to us if there were, like, for instance, 1,000 cars delivered next year. That would be absolutely awesome. I mean, what we can do is leverage on. I mean, actually, for instance, we've got a YouTube channel, so we've
Okay.
got some pro tips, some videos we've done. We've got these Ask Us Anythings, which is also on YouTube. We have casual meetups. So, yeah, I mean, we're doing all right. We don't really need funding per se, because in fact our annual fees used to be $50 a year, and we actually reduced it to 20 because we could see that all we were going to do was accumulate money, and which
You
is
have to
kind of, I mean,
explain it, yes.
in a sense that's a great thing to do, but you'd really need a lot more money to do something more interesting, like, say, buy a fast DC charger, or buy fast DC chargers and have them installed ourselves. We'd really need a serious amount of money to do that. So we're sort of happy to do what we're doing. And like I said,
it becomes complicated when you're holding money, I know.
Well, yeah, that's right. And like I said, we do need a bit of money to operate, and we do buy a few different things. We just recently bought we've ordered it. We're just waiting for it to arrive. Is a Model 3 universal spare tire. So
that was another question I had. I suddenly realized that I didn't have a spare tire.
Yeah, it's very common, unfortunately, with actually many modern cars. They used to go to the skinny spares for a while, and then they just ditch spare tires altogether, on the premise that most people live in urban areas and you just go and ring roadside assistance. And I mean, many people, even with a spare tire, get the RAC to come along and change it for them.
Yes.
And look, to me, that sounds extraordinary. But actually, Richard, you'd know, in up north on a mine site, you guys don't touch spare tires. You get someone to do that for you because of.
I touch spare tires all the time because I'm often 200 k's down a railway track. But no, you're right. Everyone on the mine, we just call like the embedded contractors, to come out and change the tires, and that is what we will do. And in fact, sometimes when you are developing a flat tire situation, you try and get back to the mine very quickly, so then you don't have to change out the third tire that day or whatever it might be. So
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
so we are unusual in that because we're rail. Yeah, there might be no one around in 100k
Yes.
radius anywhere near you, so you're doing it.
But yes.
But yeah, most
Yes.
people on mine. Yeah.
Yep. So we've actually got a aero wheel, which is standard with your car, Carmen, and a jack and a wheel brace. We've already got that in stock, but other Model 3 owners have got performance versions, and they've got a different brake caliper, so they need a larger spare, and we've actually got that coming in. So hence, I mean, that's costing us about $900 as a kit. But it's just one of those things. It's worth it because our members can use it. So, and we've also, most of us have donated, charging adapters and things like that. So that's what we sort of do. So yeah, as much as it'd be nice for Tesla to sponsor us, I mean, the good thing is they do take us seriously. We can escalate matters, and they do actually escalate things. And we've had some pretty good results with other versions of cars, not the Model 3, but the S's and X's, older versions. We've had some great results. So I dare say we sort of punch above our weight, but we sort of do it quietly, and we just always try to get things done the most efficient way they can. But like I said, if you've got any concerns you want to escalate in particular, certainly get it to us, and we can direct it to the people that need to know.
Yes.
Like I said, we can't sort of openly disclose, email addresses and stuff like that. But certainly, as a first step, you should, it's nothing wrong with sending Harry an email saying, that as far as
he got it the next day.
Yep.
I did that little blog
Yes.
about my trip, and I
Yep.
sent that to Harry.
Yes.
And I haven't been to see him, but I'm planning on it. I had a couple of very busy days,
Yep.
and with lawyers, and they cost a lot of money. So I have prioritized that, but I'll follow up with Harry. And I do want a bit of an explanation as to why I've paid that much if they're advertised in the cars at more than 10,000 less than I paid, and then I had no service. So yes, I do want to know about that.
Yes. Yeah. Indeed.
So I'll cut it, and if I can do anything to help further the cause for everyone, I'm happy to write a nice letter to RAC and let them know that that there's no electric highway at this point in time, and there shouldn't be. It's actually misleading and deceptive to advertise that there is one, and they need to do something about it.
Yes.
Because I mean, I can write to all the government departments, and in fact, the government supposedly wants us to have electric vehicles because they're allowing depreciation this year, in particular, if you obtain your car before December, they give extra depreciation if it's an electric vehicle above a normal vehicle.
Yes.
So if they're wanting to promote this, they have to back it up somehow.
Oh, they're quite happy to take our tax.
Yes. Yeah, of course. So I think it's been very piecemeal and not really very professional. And I think if we're going to have a reasonable amount of electric vehicles, they have to. I think they all have to do it together. They all have to have a concentrated, cooperative effort to further the cause, rather than every group doing a little bit.
Well, this is why a government network would be good, because then it would be independent of any particular manufacturer, and any electric vehicle would be able to plug in, as it should be.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah,
I
and-
think that would be great.
And the irony is, as has been said before, I mean, I live in near Curtin Uni, and
Yes.
on Manning Road just scored a south-facing or a southerly on-ramp to the freeway. And it's just one lane going onto the freeway, and that one on-ramp cost $35 million. And for $35 million, you can gold plate EV infrastructure in all of Western Australia. It's a rounding error on a main roads budget. And it's shovel ready. So you've got all these regions that want to be stimulated. When you put a fast charger in a region, like for instance, Lake Grace, they had the council out there, and the Lake Grace charger was a crowd funded. There were donors that put their hand in their pocket to pay to have that charger put there. So there weren't, this wasn't the government. It was literally individuals.
Well, at the moment they're wasting. There is I don't know if you've heard about the EQ Fly, the Fly program. There is 2 people with a car coming every week for 6 weeks to a house with a little spray bottle on a tree, and the reason they're doing it is to create jobs. Well, if they want to create jobs, there's plenty of jobs available if they want to do charges.
For sure.
Yes.
I'm going to have to say goodnight, everyone. Sorry.
No,
No.
take care.
See you, Richard.
See you. See you next
See you
week.
guys.
Bye.
See you, Richard.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Colin. See you.
Bye.
Yeah, that's right. There is plenty of money around, and like I said, when I went around Australia, I went to one of the Nullarbor roadhouses, and there was a plaque that said that this roadhouse was built with funding provided by the Commonwealth Government in 1962 to facilitate in the lead up to the Perth Empire Games of '62.
Okay.
So that was because in those days, you didn't fly much. It was very expensive. So people would drive. So they had to drive across Nullarbor
Yes.
to get to the Empire Games, which were a very big thing back then. So it's customary for governments to provide infrastructure where it's not economically viable yet. But obviously, since then, I mean, there are petrol stations everywhere, literally everywhere. Now, the government really needs to step in and provide EV charging infrastructure, proper infrastructure, so that then the cars, because if you build the actual infrastructure, then the cars will come, because people will go, oh, I can drive from Esperance to Perth. So then someone living in Esperance can go, well, I can have an EV. I mean, what they might do now is get an EV as a second car and drive that around
The city.
Esperance or the city. And then if I want to do a major trip, they'll have to use their petrol car. But all you need is a couple of chargers in well-chosen spots. And so there's one at Lake Grace, and there will be one at Ravensthorpe. But again, ironically, the Ravensthorpe one is actually it's another crowd-funded charger.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's been paid for by EV owners. But that's what we'll resort to get the job done. But clearly, for a mere $30-odd million, all this can be done really well and very quickly. You could basically cover Western Australia within the next 6 months. And in fact,
Maybe I can send it to the Liberal Party, who are trying to compete with the Labor Party.
you send it
about
both
creating
ways.
jobs.
Yes.
Don't waste your time, Ducky. They'll be out of office for a little while yet.
Yeah.
But what you always do is you send it to the opposition, because they can always hassle the incumbent government by asking them tricky questions. So you just send it to both sides,
Yes.
and then let them argue it out.
Absolutely.
Because that's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
But anyway, but yeah, like I said, it's great to have a new owner that
Yes.
is more fresh to the EV sphere, because
Yeah.
you bought the car because it's just an awesome car,
Yes.
and which it is.
Yes.
But the problem is in WA, it's at the moment, it's around town, there's no issues. you know,
Well,
you-
no, because I can charge at home. I'm not going to
Exactly.
do 300 Ks a day.
no.
So it's fine.
Yep. And even if you did, if you had to go, say, to Alkimos, there's charges up. There's actually free charging at Joondalup shops. There's charges at Alkimos. You know, the greater, even down towards Mandurah, Rockingham.
Anything in Mindari Keys?
No, there is at Lancelin.
Have a look. Mindari. Supercharger. Let's go Tesla. We'll go Type 2. And that will just load up. Mindari is, yes, there are a couple. No, that one's not that great. Clarkson Nissan, what have they got? Oh, they got a Type 2. There you go. Parking is free.
It's a BYO cable.
BYO cable, yes. So you'll need a Type 2 to Type 2 cable, which you
Is
can
that
get.
the one that comes with the car?
No, it's a separate. It's sort of like an extension cord.
Okay.
It's actually a male and female. It's sort of just the opposite gender. So you plug the male into the female of the charger, and the female into the male part of the car, basically. So that's at Clarkson Nissan.
That's business hours only as well.
Yes.
What was that, Nigel?
Business hours only.
Yes, because
right.
it's only open when they have the bollards down or whatever. I presume they've probably got gates or whatever. You've got further up Alkimos, as I mentioned before, and along the way you've got Joondalup, which is actually not a bad site near the cinemas.
Okay.
Again, this requires, you can actually see the charger cable there. That one's a green one. That one actually came from the club. We actually have Type 2 cables. They're not cheap. They're 265 for members or 300 for non-members. Unfortunately, even though they invariably come from China, the actual plugs are still horrendously expensive. So they're not particularly cheap.
Right.
But that's one of the more common setups, which is a Schneider dual head, so you can get charging either side. But that's at Joondalup shops.
They've also got one at Joondalup Underground, I think.
Yes, they do. That's the one next to it, I think, in the complex. That's the Maya car park, at least that's what they call it. And
Yeah, that's.
It
got knocked over, but I've used that one. It's very good.
Did it still work when it was knocked over?
I didn't knock it over. Wasn't me. It was Dolly did it.
Oh dear. So yes, so that's the same unit there. Wow, it's amazing what you see on PlugShare these days. So again, that requires that cable, but only buy it, Carmen, if you think you're going to get a lot of use out of it.
I wouldn't be going enough to be bothered with that.
Yeah, that's right. So there's also charging in Subiaco at the Bunnings. No, sorry, that one there, the home base.
Oh yes.
But again, that requires a cable. So, but
Yeah. Oh.
again, you know, the cost of charging at home is pretty low. Certainly,
I've got mine connected to solar panels.
yes, exactly. So you know, compared to the price of petrol, it's a third or even less the cost, and on a bit of solar, it's even cheaper.
Yeah.
So
No, look, for running around the city, I don't think I'll need it.
no,
I don't do anything past Yanchep,
you can.
down to southern suburbs. Yes, Bicton, and
Yes,
I wouldn't even go as far as Rockingham.
there are some, for instance, at UWA, right near
Yes.
the University Club, there's a charger, the same
yes.
Tritium sort of charger, and that's actually free to use. You've just got to Google the Rev project. So if I just bring that up for you.
Oh, okay. Well,
Rev
that's
project, and you
yeah.
just contact them. There's under the contact section, there's a phone number there. You can just do this later, of course.
Yeah.
You just ring them up, and you just need to go to their office. And if you've got something like a Smart Rider card, you can
Yes.
then register that for free with on their system, and then you can
Well,
basically.
I'm a member of the university club.
Yes, yeah. You don't. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, you don't need to be one. But if you've got well, actually, the uni club might have a ID card sort of thing, like a.
Yeah,
like
I have.
Yeah.
I have one.
So you can just use that, and they can register it. They just need to swipe it, and they register it on their system, and then you can use the charger at the uni club. That's right near. It's got exclusive parking with a exclusive bay, and free parking too, by the way. So you can see the uni club's just there.
Well, I go there quite a bit, actually.
Yes. So you can actually just park. That's the uni club there, and that's a car park underneath.
Oh, that's fantastic. I know
Yep.
where it is. Yep.
Now, the only thing is, once you register and you can use the charger, you can only park and charge there for 30 minutes.
Okay.
So it's good if you're doing a short sort of thing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, after 30 minutes, you've got to unplug and move the car.
That's okay. I can park underneath.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, that little coin parking machine
Yes.
is playing up. So all it does is go tick, 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 tick all day, every day, all day.
Oh.
So there's something wrong with it, but it's probably broken by now, or it's worn itself out. But yeah, so you can do that at the uni club, and that's free fast DC charging. So if, say, you're out and about and you're a little bit low on
Well,
charge,
I do a bit of work at Crawley, so
Yep.
sometimes, if you're rushing, it would be
Yes.
handy.
That's right. Yeah. So you could just pop there, and it'll fill your car in excess of 200 kilometers per hour.
Okay.
So for Model 3, it's probably closer to 250, if not a bit more. So
Okay.
in half an hour, you can get probably 120 kilometers extra range in your car.
That would be useful, actually.
Yes, yeah. So that's quite useful. And like I said, you just need to explore most of these other. The green ones are the AC chargers. They're slower. So there's one at Scarborough Beach, but
Okay.
that needs the cable. So that needs the Type 2
Oh, yeah.
cable, which you can see there. That's a low slung. That's
No.
actually free to use. You just
Yeah.
plug it straight in.
Mainly, I go to Cottesloe.
Yeah, there is one at Floreat. Actually, Cottesloe Beach. They've got that's a private one, I think. That when it's in that sort of brownish colour, that
Okay.
means restricted. That's inside. That's in the chalets. But there is one at Floreat Beach. Again, that's free. That's a double-sided one.
Okay.
But again, you need a cable. But you should only buy the cable, like I said, if you find yourself sort of wanting to use something fairly often.
Yes.
Otherwise, getting free electricity costs a fair bit of money when you've got to buy a lot of cables.
Well, it's not only that, it's just that they go out, they probably change models, and then you are left with superseded
Oh no,
equipment.
those cables will always be standard, so they'll always be the same. That won't change, thankfully.
Okay.
But it's just a matter of, if you buy something and don't use it, well then it's just
White elephant.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Oh, well, that's been very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. And like I said, welcome to the club,
Thank you.
albeit via baptism of fire. But I guess it's better to get out of the way now.
Yeah.
And then know better for next time.
Well,
But,
yeah.
I just noticed on the chat that Brian, who's no longer with us, was asking about the Kalbarri drive. So we are actually planning a weekend drive to Kalbarri. We're tentatively looking at the 4th of December as probably being the last practical date to do it before we get hard up against school holidays and
Yes.
Kalbarri being all booked out. So there are some logistical challenges that we're just going through, and mainly charging, but we're working on that to get it, because we've actually got our own portable charger that we can take to Geraldton.
Okay.
So,
For emergencies.
oh no, this is a fast DC charger. So we're just trying to work out a site that can host us, because you don't want to have to charge for 4 hours or 5 hours to get there. So, so we're just working on that. So
Is this your tail plane?
yes, yeah, that's the charger, the Beast.
How did it go at Coolin?
Oh, it went fantastic. Yeah, no, it went really well.
Yeah.
We plugged it into the RV station toilet block area,
Yeah.
and yeah, it worked a treat. Didn't fall off the back of the car, which is good. I subsequently took it to Ravensthorpe, so that thing has done about 1,600 kilometres.
Yes, I noticed a couple of the check-ins. You did a bit of a circuit.
Oh yes, there was one at Lake Grace where I took the photo where the two chargers were sort of sitting side by side. Just bring that up. Lake Grace. Yes, that's it there on the back. So that's the actual charger that was donated by the people through Eva. And that's the one that we've got, which is identical on the back of the car. So yeah, so I took it through Lake Grace and then on to Ravensthorpe, then dropped it off. We drove on to Esperance and then picked it up the next day. Oh, sorry, 2 days later. We came back to Esperance, back to Ravensthorpe the next day, stayed the night and then took it home on the Sunday.
Did it change the dynamics of the car much?
Yeah, it's what it does is I guess it's a little. I haven't driven with any big caravans, but it feels like it's sort of rocking the car. So as you go over bumps, it's like thrusting the car forwards and over. So it's like having a very big caravan. But apart from that, it doesn't really affect the range too much or the economy too much. It does affect it a bit. But yeah, it's actually, touch wood, I'm now used to it. So I'm no longer sweaty palmed when I'm driving, thinking it's going to snap off. Because I mean, it weighs 165 kilos, but yeah, it was good. We basically put it in Ravensthorpe, which is where the same type of charger will go once it gets installed. So people can look forward to it. And that was for the Galaxy Lithium project, where they had an open day, like a bit of a fun fair. So yeah, so we'll be taking it to Geraldton. So what we'll do is on this drive to Kalbarri, we'll top up at Jurien Bay, then go to Geraldton. But what we'll do is actually schedule it so we give people time slots. So rather than 3 cars sitting there waiting around for one car to charge, we'll say, oh, you know, someone who will volunteer to leave early might leave at say 8 a.m, get to Jurien Bay at say 10, maybe charge for say an hour, maybe tops, not even. So we have a slot from say 10 to 11, 11 to 12, 12 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3. And then we have another slot in Geraldton to charge up, and we just like slot them all through.
Yep.
So what we do is when people book, we'll find out what kind of cars they have so we can predict how long they need to charge and all that sort of stuff. And we're doing it over from Friday to Sunday, so that some people may want to do a longer weekend, but others who are working might only just do it from the Saturday to the Sunday.
Yes.
So it sort of spreads it out a little bit. And yeah, it's just one of those fun things to do. We did the Coolin thing and that was pretty good. Just as
Except
a
the pub
first
was shut.
experiment. Oh yeah, that's right. They decided to have a volunteer. Coolin is famous for the Coolin races every year, which because of COVID uncertainty, they didn't do. But then they decided, I think it was 2 weeks before we arrived, and we'd already booked this a couple of months earlier. They decided to have a volunteer thank you type fair at the races. So basically most of the town went there, and we were left with a pub that was shut, which is worse than a pub with no beer, because you know the beer's there, you just can't get it. So we had to bring our own provisions and whatever stuff, food. But it was good. It was a bit of an adventure. Our first long drive. So that was our first overnight drive.
Yep.
And we intend on doing more of those, you know, to the point where we might do multi-day optional drives. And for the benefit of you, Carmen, like for instance, we also, every month we do casual meetups. So our next one is the start of November. I think it's the 4th of November at the Floriet Hotel
Oh, yes.
at Floriet Forum. Yeah, it's adjacent to the Floriet Forum.
I know it. Yes, I can do that.
Yeah, so that starts at 6:30 till whenever.
So is it on the Meetup app?
It will be, yes. Yeah, we'll put that.
Because I'm actually a member in Meetup.
Oh, it's not on. No, sorry, it's not on Meetup. No, we have our we have our own website and we publicise it there. And we also I send out an email to everyone.
Okay.
Usually what I'll be doing is actually sending it out tomorrow.
I think
so
that's a Thursday night, isn't it?
No, it's Wednesday. Wednesday the
Wednesday.
4th. Yeah.
Yes,
So-
I think.
So
Yeah.
what I'll do is I'll do it on I'll send it out tomorrow.
Yes.
So then I'll say our next casual meetup is this coming Wednesday, so it's not
Yeah.
confusing. And in fact, that's the day when we won't have this Zoom session because we'll be at
Mhm.
Floriet
Yeah. Instead. Yeah.
instead. Yeah. So we'll but we just rotate in different places. So we were, I forget where we were last time. I think it was no, it wasn't the Camfield. The day one was at the Como Car Show.
Okay.
Como at Wesley College.
Okay.
The month before that, what we do is we alternate. One month it's on a Sunday afternoon.
Okay.
The next month it's a Wednesday evening
Yeah.
because different people have different lifestyles. So you might have kids or sport or whatever. So, and they're just casual, just no one books, you just turn up.
Yes.
So that's sort of cool.
Okay.
But that's sort of what we do.
Yeah.
But,
Okay. All right. Well, I'll join on the Wednesday.
yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's plenty of parking. I'll put that detail in the email, but
I think I know the one. It's above the shopping centre, and it's got
On
a
the
little couches at the entry and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, it's on the corner. So you just
Yeah.
park at the standard shopping centre car park and you just go down this external mall.
Yes.
I forget what the streets are called, but it's a corner of,
Powtree.
sorry?
Powtree place.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I know it.
It was an old drinking hole of mine when I was a young fella.
There you go. And before it was refurbished, I bet it was a tough pub in those days.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I reckon.
A bit like Steve's in Netherlands.
Oh yeah, I mean
Oh.
Steve's gone all, yes, because it's all been
That was a
rebuilt.
bloody-
And,
Yeah.
That was a swim through that place. Bloody hell.
Yes. Oh well, we all went there when we were at uni.
yeah, or what was the place near Chelsea Pizza? What was that called? On
Oh,
Sterling Highway.
Chelsea Tavern.
Yeah, was it
Oh.
Chelsea Tavern?
Yeah,
Was it
Tavern.
called? Yeah.
Yeah, and there's the Coronado in Claremont, but that's gone.
Mm.
Yeah. And the Continental.
yeah,
Minsky's.
yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yes,
Minsky's Winehouse.
don't know that
Hampton
one,
Road.
no, but
No.
I
yeah,
don't
there's-
know that
That's
one.
before your time. I'm too old.
All right,
Yeah.
guys. Well, that was fantastic. Thank you
yeah,
very
cool.
much.
No worries, Carmen. Well, yeah,
And,
that's a welcome again.
Yes, lovely to meet everyone. Thanks
No
for
worries.
the advice
All
and
right.
the help, Harold.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no problems. Anytime.
All right. Good
Okay,
night.
no worries.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Take care.
Hooroo. Okay, now I have a question. There's another Nigel somewhere that must have his CAMS license. I think he was roaring around the city on the weekend.
Oh, Nigel
It's
Ball.
not me, Nigel Ball.
Yeah,
He came. No. What did he do? Tell us what he did, because he went pretty spectacularly at the at Langley Park.
yeah, that's what I mean. I wasn't there. Unfortunately, I was out at Malaga. I got a good shot of Jurgen coming around. I just happened to start my video when he flew around the corner where they're doing all the wheelies and drags and stuff. And the comments from people around me, especially all the young guys up to 30 or so years of age, saying, "Oh, they're looking at it, going like the clappers, no fucking noise, you know.
Yes.
Oh, geez, that's fast."
Yeah, that's right.
It was, I mean, if it won by about 12 minutes or something and still
Yeah.
beat the next class up by 4 minutes, that's
Yeah, I
just a
saw that.
phenomenal
It was-
effort.
and don't
It was
forget that,
hopping along.
that next class, they are speed limited to 165, whereas
Yeah.
Jürgen was speed limited to 130. So it's real-
135, I think,
one-
wasn't it?
No, it's 130. No, it's
130, yeah.
130, yes. And then it's 165 for the other one. And they had a real handicap in comparison, but obviously it's a testament to the acceleration on the bendy roads,
Mm.
where, it's just a profound
And-
victory.
And its cornering ability with such a low center of gravity. That's the one
Yeah.
thing I noticed when we were driving carefully and sedately around the RAC track at the airport.
Yes,
Yeah. They stick
Yes.
like shit to a blanket.
They do, absolutely.
yes.
I
Yeah,
was just astounded at some of those 90-degree turns there that you could go around them at 65, 68 and it didn't squeal or, go
Yeah.
offline. It was just bloody hell.
Beautiful. They are beautiful.
yeah, it is
Absolutely
quite
beautiful.
impressive. And the good thing is these young blokes, or anyone actually, you saw that video of that footage in, was it the Fight for Planet A? Where
Fight
they
for
had
Planet A.
Yeah, they had the Walkinshaw W1 or W3, which was Australia's fastest production car ever built. And the Performance Model S just creamed it. And these dyed-in-the-wool V8 Holden supporters, a few of them just went, wow, that car's awesome. Where do we get one? Like I don't think they really cared that it wasn't a V8. All they wanted to know was how fast it went. And as
Yeah.
soon as it knew it went fast, that's all that mattered.
How fast it got there.
Yeah, exactly. Because it just beat it. I forget what it was on a quarter-mile track, and it just beat it by a fair margin. It really beat it. And that was a four-door, 5-seat family sedan, whereas this Walkinshaw thing was a beast. I mean, it's almost like a slow touring car, so it's highly hotted up, highly, stiff suspension and, lumpy cams and God knows what.
Out of that RAC thing, I went for a drive in the Audi SUV, and the sales guy there drove it, and then I drove it for a lap, and he was raving on about how good it was and fast and blah 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 blah. And I said, "Have you ever driven a Tesla?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Okay, here, have a shot on this." Well, far out.
Yes. And that's the thing. Once you've done that, you can't go back to a petrol car because it just annoys you how the automatic transmission has to kick back 2 gears, or then it revs up and then it doesn't know what it's doing. Or if you stab it and then release the throttle, it'll get all confused. And in our cars, it just does what you tell it to do.
Yeah.
Which
A
is,
question for both of you.
yes.
Nigel, you've had your car for about a year.
January the 17th delivery.
Yeah. Oh, the same as mine. Have you worked out what percentage your battery's degraded so far, roughly?
No, I haven't, but really I haven't noticed any difference. I can still easily do 350 on my SR Plus, and probably 400, because I mean, a lot of the time when I'm driving around, like I went up to Perth and back, and I was using 125
What hours?
hours per K. I mean, that's over 400 if I did that, because
You
50
must be
kilowatt battery.
driving. You must be driving reasonably conservatively, or is
At
mine a
the
bit hungry?
At the speed limit. You've got a 3P, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Peter's-
Well,
Peter's
that's why,
Yeah.
silly bugger.
Yeah, see, Pete, it's because you got the sticky tires. That'll kill a bit of your range. Is just the sticky tires.
Yeah.
So
Because I think my battery's dropped by about 5% roughly, because I used to be able to charge to 80% and do 400 kilometers.
Yep.
now I charge to 80% and it does 380 or projected 380, which is pretty close to 5%.
Yeah.
The other thing is that
Yeah.
if you let the battery go right down to 20 or 30% and leave it at that for a while, it will reset its calibration and probably give you a bit more. Mine
yeah?
got down to about 30% a couple of days ago, and I just left it. And then
That's a good idea, Nigel.
I've heard that is what helps.
Don't do it below 20, because when it hits 20, what it does is it stops charging the 12-volt battery when the big battery is below 20. But you could have it say at 25% and just leave it overnight one night at 25, and that will help the battery management system to calibrate. And then we can also do is charge it up to say 90% and leave it overnight at 90 if you don't otherwise do that. And then every now and then, once every 6 months, you can just charge it up to 100 for an hour or so, just to get it to balance all the cells. And then you might claw back some of that loss. But 5% isn't actually that bad, because most of the degradation occurs at the start.
Yes.
And in fact, some of it they actually mask by underrating your kilometers. So if you sort of fully charge, or even if you're charging at 90%, as you're first driving along, you don't really see the kilometers going down initially when the car's brand new. And then it sort of then slowly starts notching down. And that little bit of buffer is what they're sort of using to hide the initial degradation that happens fairly early on. So I dare say that you'll probably find that the 380 won't turn into 360 in another year. It'll probably be more like 378 or 375.
So how's yours gone over the? How long have you had it, Harold? 4 years or something?
Mine's 3 2/3. I got it in March 2017. Look, I haven't really looked at percentages. See, mine's a special case because it's a so-called 90D, but it never had 90 kilowatt hours ever. So my usable full pack now is 71 point something kilowatt hours. I think when it was new, it was 84, roughly, I think, usable. So it's roughly 71 into 84. It's about 15%. But their threshold for replacing the battery is 30. So I'm still within that. And then I've given mine a bit of a hard life as far as, I've driven down to 0 Ks and had to charge it up to 100%, for a couple of weeks when I went around Australia and stuff.
And Peter, do you rapid charge yours a lot, like, on a supercharger or something? Because that degrades it a little bit if you keep charging it up to 95% on a fast charger. I mean, fastest I've used has been about 40 kilowatts, I think. I have used the supercharger at Eton 4 times. That's it. But otherwise,
I haven't been down south yet in it.
Oh, you should do it. You should do it, Peter. The supercharger is good fun. In your car, what you should do is not overly charge it when you're home. So leave, say, with 80%, and then you'll probably get down to about 30% once you're at Eton, and then you can get a really good fast charge on it.
I'm going to use Treendale.
Yes.
Because it's a lot cheaper after Tesla put the price up to 52.5 cents a kilowatt. That's getting a bit ridiculous. Treendale's still only 40, I think, isn't it?
40 or 42 or 40. Yeah, I think that's right.
I've got an RFID card from ChargeFox en route.
Good. Yes.
You can't use your phone?
Not yet. They haven't.
Not yet, but I'm with Vodafone, and sometimes when I'm out in the country, I haven't got a signal, so it's bloody hard to use it, let alone phone up if you can't. So I've just ordered an RFID card.
Yes.
Well, actually, what's the modem in the car? Is that on Telstra, or ?
I believe so.
That's yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's Telstra.
It's actually it's via Telstra, but Tesla uses some other company that does the data that then uses Telstra as a wholesaler to provide
Yeah,
the
well, they
service.
use the Telstra network.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's funny because, oh, well, this isn't a problem you guys experience, but my car only has 3G. It doesn't do 4G. And around Perth, it's really frustrating because I think Telstra is generally shutting down a lot of 3G or reducing the number of 3G antennas on towers, if
They
you're
are.
eliminating them altogether, to go on to 4G and 5G. But ironically, on the way to Lake Grace, or even further, it's just golden service because in the rural areas, 3G has got a longer reach. So there's a much better coverage in the country. Because obviously there's no 5G in the country. I mean, the Teslas don't do 5G yet. They only do 4G and 3G. But yeah, so it is Telstra, Pete, that are doing it. But the thing that Nigel said with the RFID card is a good idea because, for instance, at Lake Grace, if you've got Vodafone or Optus, I think there's almost no service. So you can't actually activate the charger using your phone because you don't have any internet.
And you can't phone them because it doesn't work either.
Yeah.
The
There's
best,
lots and lots of places that only Telstra cover. Lots and lots and
Yes.
lots.
the only thing you could possibly do is go to one of the shops and see if they got free Wi-Fi and connect to the internet that way on your phone and do it that way. But anyway, getting an RFID card is good. You can get it for free from ChargeFox. And
Yeah,
as
that was my next question. You just
on their
contact them and
website.
you just,
You-
yeah,
I filled out a form on their website and it said, why do you want one? I said, because my phone doesn't work in a lot of places. And I got an email the next day saying, yep, thanks very much. It's on its way.
good. So
something-
what about the other mob? Doobie-doobie-doobie-doobie-doobie-doo.
Charge point.
Yeah,
Oh, they don't exist in Australia anymore.
they're not Charge Point. The mob that got the app that you showed a while ago. PlugShare.
Yes. No, they don't
Do
do.
they-
You can't pay through. No, apparently in some places in Europe or the States, you can pay using PlugShare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that doesn't work in Australia.
All it does in Australia is tell you where they are and what they've got.
Oh, okay. So when you see a place where you got to pay, how does that work?
Well, if you look on PlugShare, so for instance, I'll just bring up PlugShare. It will often tell you what network it is. So let me just think. If we look at 2J,
Well, 2J's free. Oh, actually, it says that you got to pay, but I've plugged in up there and it works.
actually, yeah, not 2J. Oh, yeah, I know one. Katanning. So if you
Yeah.
go to Katanning, it says activate using the NextCharge smartphone app or the NextCharge RFID card. So you just got to, if you've got an iPhone or an Android, you just got to go to the App Store and download the NextCharge app.
Okay.
So, which looks like
So that
it's blue from memory.
okay. So that
No,
and
it's
you've
green, sorry.
It's green.
Oh,
okay. So you put your credit card
It's that one
information in
just
when
there.
you log in.
yes, so you
Yeah.
can put your credit card. Oh, can't focus. There it
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can just you can put your credit card in casually. I think it actually retains it, but I think you have to just confirm that that's the card you want to use,
Mhm.
and you can just pay that way.
Yeah. So
So
I've
how
got
does
ChargeFox, ChargePoint, PlugShare, EO, NextCharge. Yeah, that's all I've got on at the moment. That you just bring up that app, and if it's got your credit card details, you just hold it up to the unit. But I would like to see what's been happening in Europe, where you can just walk up, hold your credit card there, and start charging without having to do all the apps. I think Germany are making it a law now, aren't they?
Yes.
Sure.
And
So what-
California, I think, is doing something similar. In fact, they demand that there be a meter or a display that just shows how much you're going to be charged. Yeah, Beyond Nyland, about look, time flies, maybe it was about a year ago, did a really clever video where he was walking around Amsterdam, and I actually had a similar experience. So because as a tourist, it's even worse because, you know, most tourists don't have great mobile phone coverage or data coverage or anything, right? And there was an operator called Smooth, SMOOV, and they had like a pillar that had a charger on it. And it was great parking right next to a canal. And I thought, oh, cool, I'll just go and park here, plug in and charge. But I go to the App Store and try and download the Smooth app. And it says, this app is not available in your region because I'm an Australian Apple customer.
Oh, yeah.
It wouldn't let me download the Dutch app. So then I couldn't basically activate the charger. So that wasn't particularly smooth.
You had to change your region.
Yeah, but then when you do that, you've got to undo all your purchases. Like you just can't do it because everything is tied to a region.
Don't get Apple.
Well, it doesn't matter. It would have. I don't even know if if Android was the same. But anyway, that it was frustrating. And anyway, what Bjorn did was he walks into a deli and he goes, "Oh, you go to the deli, you want to buy an ice cream? Well, you've got to use a special ice cream app, or you've got to use a special ice cream credit card." And then you go to the newsagent, you want to buy a newspaper, you've got to buy the special newsagent card or the newsagent app. And
Where's this?
well, this is like as a parody of the situation with charging.
Oh,
because of course,
okay.
if you went to get an ice cream and they said, no, you can only buy an ice cream using a special ice cream app or a special ice cream RFID card, you go, this is just insanity and it's crazy. Because you're right, you should be able to go up to anything, especially with your PayWave, and just badge onto the PayWave reader and pay for it. And ironically, Tritium actually have a reader that's an Ingenico, which they produce a lot of the EFT terminals for shops and stuff. They've got one on their chargers, but currently they're saying that it only works in America. They haven't bothered to make it work in Australia. So
aren't they an Australian company?
Yes, yes, they are.
And wouldn't it be even nicer if you just drove up to a charger, plugged it in and walked away, and it asked your car, who are you? Who do you belong to? Oh, okay, I know who to charge.
Just like Tesla.
Just like Tesla, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's called ISO 3113 or something, which
it'll probably come.
Yes, it's going to come in the fullness of time, yes.
Nigel, just going back to when you said you put your phone up to the charger, what happens there?
Well, you've got to bring the app up. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's say next charge, you bring the app up, you go up to the unit, and it's usually got a little sign on the part of it that says hold your phone here or your RFID card. You hold the phone there with the app open and running, and it just goes bip, and then you can follow the instructions, plug in, start charging. Was it like a Bluetooth link or something, or there's some optical thing that it sees on the app? Radio frequency identifier, RFID. Out of the phone? Yes. Yes, your phone's got an RFID chip in it. Well, I didn't know that. Yeah, so it uses the RFID chip in the phone, which is the same when you want to use your Samsung Pay or Apple Pay. You just hold it over the thing, and the RFID chip in the phone communicates, and off it goes. Okay, I did often wonder, having seen people do that, what the hell, what's going on? Now I know. Thank you for enlightening me. That's all right. I'll send you my bill.
But yeah, like Nigel said, the card is good because that you don't need any technology. And what we're doing as a club is getting lanyards made with a name tag, which also doubles as an RFID card. So then you can go and ring ChargeFox if you haven't yet got a RFID card, and just note the number down or tell them what the number is, and they can link that to your account, and then you don't have to use your phone. But obviously you can just log on to their website and just ask for a card, and they'll just send one. They'll post it out to you for nothing. But later on, you might be inconvenient to have a whole lot of different cards. So for instance, at UWA, well, you could actually use your ChargeFox card at UWA if you just take it to them and they can read it and put it in their system to charge.
So can you have one RFID card with lots of customers on it, or
Yes.
lots of
Well,
suppliers?
yeah, effectively, because UWA, they don't do any billing. They just want to have a token. So they just read, like in my case, it's my Smart Rider card. They've just read the serial number off it and put it in their system as a valid card. But like I said, as a club, we're going to provide all the members with RFID cards that also are name tags. So then if you want, you can just contact ChargeFox, possibly NextCharge, and certainly UWA, and just register.
Ego or whatever.
EO. No, I think EO.
I mean, they're free at the moment, like at Fremantle.
Most are free. There are, I thought 2J, I think 2J you got to pay, or was it your something?
Well, it says you do, but I went up there and I just plugged in and it all started up all by itself.
It might have gone offline, so then it sometimes goes as like not a whitelist, but it just goes free issue if it can't communicate. But yes, that's how it works. But yeah, like Nigel said, I think some of the phones, the Androids in particular, can just effectively simulate an RFID card that will work, through the app. So there you go.
Who drives a grey Model 3 with a license plate? M3P maybe?
That might be.
It's not the other Nigel, is it? Nigel Hall? It's a gunmetal grey, dark grey.
It's possible. That rings a bell, but I don't know specifically.
I was behind him in Inaloo the other day by the cinemas.
Yeah, right.
What's Pete Petrosky?
Oh, he's black.
Yeah, his is black.
Yeah, I knew it was a darker colour. Yeah.
I don't know what Pete has got a custom plate, but I just don't remember what it is at the moment.
Yes, I can't remember. Electrons or something, or
no, that's
someone else.
Yeah, that's John Edwards.
Yeah, I'm getting a bit fed up around here. There's too many Model 3s getting plugged in at Stockland, and it's not just that Model S from Rob and Rob.
Yeah, that's the tragedy of the Commons, isn't it? When
there's a new guy who I think lives in Golden Bay, who's got a dark coloured Model 3. He's just had it shipped over from Queensland. He's a FIFO worker, so he's moved here. There's that Aaron fellow that you put onto me. He's ordered his. He's getting antsy. He's still waiting for it.
Oh, awesome.
He's ordered one. He actually used my referral code. Sorry, Harold.
That's all right. Perfectly good, because you have a finite, albeit infinitesimal, chance of getting a Model Y in a lottery.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And there's Seb. Seb and Joe. Hello, Joe. Yes. I saw Seb a few days ago. He came up there as well, and I was plugged in first. And there's another one that I've seen that had an ACT number plate. There was another one with, I was just going, this is getting ridiculous. We need more charges.
Yes, well, for instance, at Lake Grace, I took a photo. I think I put it up on PlugShare. Oh no, I tweeted it out, where there were two cars. There were two Model X's, one
lined up waiting.
Yeah,
waiting. Yeah.
At Lake Grace.
Yeah. Yes.
Really?
Yeah. Because we It was Jason Stanley, because his car was on show for Galaxy Lithium at Ravensthorpe. So he left first, and then I left about an hour later, or a bit over an hour later, and he was just topping off as I got there. So then I just took a photo of the two cars, saying it was basically peak hour at Lake Grace. But
Well, it's certainly peak hour at Stockland frequently, at Baldivis Stockland.
well, you'll have to pick your moments then, Nigel. You gotta try and outdo them and get there earlier or later or something. I don't know. Put a witch's hat in the car parking bay or something.
Yeah.
Doctor's
Put
parking
out of
only.
order.
Nigel's parking spot.
That's right. Exactly. Put your name on it. Yeah, that's exactly right. It's your charger.
I mean, if there's somebody there, I use the Type 1 charger.
Yes. Yeah. It's just a bit slower. Well, it's a lot slower. But,
Joe's just put a message up. They're there Thursdays between 4 p.m. and 5 p.m. and I was there last Thursday. Sorry.
That's perfectly good to use it. Like it's.
So I'll be there at 3:45 tomorrow.
Oh dear.
Oh dear, oh dear. Don't do that. If that's a challenge, we'll all rock up.
So,
Yeah.
Harold, your little trickle charger that takes the spare stuff going out, how
Yes.
close are you to getting that up and running?
Basically, it's almost perfected. In fact, I'm just tuning it to do with battery storage, which is another slight complication. And you only learn about things like that when you test it. But it's effectively ready to go, Nigel. So I'm going to do a soft launch. Yeah, so with a battery storage system, what I found is, say you're producing 5 kilowatts in the middle of the day, and then the charger, because what the charger does is when it detects that there's energy leaving the building, leaving the house, it will divert it to the car. And then of course, once it diverts it, there'll be nothing leaving the house. So, and it just sits there in a steady state, just doing, 3 or 4 kilowatts. And then you can imagine as the sun goes down, without a battery, then the house starts importing a little bit, so it throttles down so that there's no import and no export. It tries to match it so that there's nothing wasted and nothing drawn in. And then the sun goes down and everything stops. Now, if you've got a battery pack, you usually have to wait in the morning for the battery to recharge because you've either completely flattened it overnight or it's half flat or whatever. But what I found was in testing it is that say it gets to a steady state of 4 kilowatts and then the sun or a cloud comes over, what happens is the house doesn't start pulling in power because a cloud's come over. The inverter just draws energy from the battery and provides the house load, including the car. So what I found on my setup was my car was continuing to draw, several kilowatts, even though the battery was starting to get drained. So I've had to change the programming so that it basically always tries, it sets up so it won't provide more power to the car unless there's at least 100 watts leaving the house. And so what happens is when the sun starts going down and that 100 watts turns to nothing, it'll then reduce how much power is going to the car to establish this 100 watts again. So you're always guaranteeing 100 watts is leaving your house. And then what happens is that the storage battery never gets depleted. And then when the sun goes down, it just switches off. The car charger switches off and your battery is still at basically 100%.
Yeah, that's basically what I'm doing manually at the moment, looking at
Yes.
my app to see how much is being sent out to the grid and then dialing up and down. And I mean, I'm making at the moment, about 40 kilowatts a day on average, maybe
Yep.
43 to 45. And I mean, yesterday I plugged the car in once my battery hit full, which was about 11 o'clock.
Yes.
Plugged the car in, wanked it up to 4 kilowatts.
Yep.
And by the afternoon, I'd added, well, that's 8% on mine, an hour. So after 3 hours, it would gone up 25. And after 4 hours, I was up to 90% on the car.
Yes.
I did the same again today. Charged it up and I went from about 60 to, I stopped it at 75% because I suddenly realized clouds had come over.
Yeah, that's right. And that's the beauty of this system is it's completely automatic. The challenges were that I could have done things like analyze the data going to the battery pack via the inverter. Well, in your case, you've got a Powerwall, don't you?
Me?
Yes.
No, I've got cheap shit.
Oh, you got the good, is it the GoodWe or whatever, and whatever battery?
Grow what?
Grow what? Okay, right, cool. So one thing I could have done is try and interpret all those different protocols to analyze what the battery's doing. But instead, all I do is I look at what's entering or leaving the house. And I just had this epiphany yesterday and realized that if I just make sure that 100 watts is leaving the house, because your inverter, if there is surplus, it just goes out to the grid.
Yes.
Once it's charged the battery. So in the morning, nothing leaves the grid, nothing enters the grid until your battery is at 100%. And then it will swap over and pour it into the grid because there's nowhere else for it to go. So yeah, I had this little epiphany when I realized that if I just let some energy always leave to go to the grid, then I'll know straight away if the battery starts getting depleted, there won't be that surplus, because whenever your battery is powering the house, there's nothing goes to the grid, or very little, maybe 1 or 2 watts that if you look on your app, you might see every now and then. So yes, anyway, it's working well, but obviously it doesn't make sense to buy something like that unless it's for a good reason, such as the convenience of just plugging it in at night time and knowing that sometime during the next day, as much power as can go into the car does go into it. And of course, as we know, Tesla frustratingly don't have a slider for the current. You can't adjust the current.
Not on the app. I have to go out to the car.
Yeah, and if you're not home, the best you can do is just turn the car charging off.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Which I guess is okay if you've got a battery, because what you might do is you might deplete your battery to like 80% until 3:30 in the afternoon, knowing that it will recharge, by the end of the day. But yeah, you don't want to have to play around with that because you've got better things to do. Hitting a white ball around a grass.
I don't play that game anymore.
Nor do I. Well, I never did. Well, you would have played it on a Wednesday, surely, Nigel.
I played it just about every day of the week at one point.
There you go.
Most frustrating thing I've ever done in my life.
Yeah, there are some various jokes about why did they call golf golf, because shit was already taken or something. I can't remember this. Oh dear. Cool.
Anyway, I might toddle off, I think.
Yeah, that might be a good idea. Might be a good point in the proceedings to call it an evening. And well, next week's going to be face to face. So I was going to say don't forget, but I haven't actually told you properly. But yeah, it will be at the Floreat Hotel.
At the Floreat Hotel next Wednesday.
Yeah, next Wednesday from 6:30 onwards. So that'll be good. Obviously we'll repeat the Ask Us Anything for those half a dozen people that watch it in 2 weeks' time. So yeah, in the meantime, thanks for everyone coming. Thanks, Joe, for listening vicariously. And we'll see you all next week in person or in a couple of weeks virtually.
Yep. Oh, there she is.
There she is.
Would you look at that?
She's been,
I don't get to just sit down and chat, so I'm all over the place.
Yeah,
while
yeah, that's
listening.
cool.
I thought you must have been sitting there in the nick.
I'm doing school lunches and all sorts and washing up.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, all mum stuff.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Sit and relax.
so I've got to leave the
Yes.
Stockland shopping one not in use for till 5 on a Thursday because your daughter's doing
Well-
something over there.
But yeah, but if you can use the other one, then why not? If you're there, why not just plug into the other one? Or do you have to pay?
Because
for
it's slower.
that? Oh, okay.
It's only 7 kilowatts instead of 11.
Oh dear.
That's all right.
Dot
You had a
horror.
good chat with Seb. I saw on the Sentry mode actually, you and Seb having your chat because you'd set the Sentry off on the car whilst talking. It must have.
Yeah,
blocked.
we were standing there talking and the
Yeah.
cars were all
That's all.
locked.
See, the car sees everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Alrighty. Well, on that note, we'll
Yep.
bid everyone
Okay.
a good night, and we'll
See you next week.
see you next week.
Yep.
And
I'll see you up at Floriat.
no
Yep.
worries.
Yeah.
Take
See you,
Can't
care.
Harold.
do that, I'm
All right.
afraid. I'm gonna stay here in the
See you,
kitchen.
Nigel. Bye, Joe.
Bye.
See ya.
See you.
Bye.